Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Deb.
How you feeling, Dave?
Good. How about yourself?
Fine.
Yeah,
Fine.
off and on, right? Off and on chills or headaches. Yeah. It's not annoying. It's fine.
It was annoying.
It was annoying. You're right.
We're in Daniel 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. You started already.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But I'm just pointing out some things. If you can turn to Daniel 4. And we started in verse 2, and we're pointing at, and we're getting to hopefully kind of to cover maybe a question that Megan had mentioned, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago or something. In verse 2, Daniel 4:2, the signs, it mentions the signs and wonders the most high God hath wrought towards me. Verse 17, same chapter. It says, and I'm just going to read the phrase in my Bible. It says, the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. In verse 24, same chapter, it mentions the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my Lord the King. 25 says again, the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he wills. In 32, the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will. And in 34, it says, understand, return to me, and I bless the Most High. And so that's 6 times, I believe, there. It's also mentioned in chapter 5 twice. It's mentioned in, I think, chapter 2 as well, multiple times. And so we see Nebuchadnezzar in this chapter referring to how the Most High deserves praise and honor. But one of the questions I think Megan had asked was, why is he the Most High? And if he's the Most High, are there lesser gods? And so I guess I thought on that, and I heard some guy talking on it. And I don't know if it was just chance or I don't remember, but and I felt like his response was very interesting. So I'm going to take bits of what he had suggested and try and put it in a digestible format. So in Daniel 4:17, we just kind of covered the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. But in 17a, or the beginning of 17, it makes a mention of the sentence is by the decree of the watchers and the demand of the word of the holy ones. And so the question is, who are these? Who might they be? I know it's kind of mysterious. And it seems as if, I mean, what would you guys think their purpose would be?
Who? The holy ones?
Or the watchers, because they seem like they make some decree and carry it out. But when all's said and done, who gets the credit?
The Most High God?
Yeah, he gets credit. So the question is, I wonder what part these holy ones, these watchers, whatever you want to call them, what role do they play, or who are they, or who might they be? So that being said, let's turn to Psalms 82. Somebody wants to read Psalms 82, and we're just going to read the first verse and pause on that.
And P.S. I did read this and was like, what?
Yeah, I know.
That's weird. Right? Yeah.
To just read the first verse?
Yeah.
Psalm 82. God presides in the great assembly. He renders judgment among the gods.
Okay, weird, right? I mean, we don't think of it this way. So I started looking these words up, and the word God in both of those instances, some of you may have three instances of God, but the ones that I'm referring to is
Mhm.
how God stands in the assembly, the first part, and then the very last part, how he judges among the gods. That word, first time singular, second times plural, is the same word, and it's Elohim. What do you guys
What?
think? What do you, Elohim? You've heard the word mentioned, Elohim, before.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Well,
Anybody else?
when I was trying to do the lexicon or whatever it's called,
Mhm.
I I forget I think it said angels, right? Angel and something or no?
Well, that's a really good statement because I think the years being in church, I always thought Elohim was the most high God, but it seems to be a lot more than that. And here you have the most high Elohim, and then you have he judges among also the Elohim, or he judges maybe the lesser Elohims or something like that. But it makes mention of the congregation of God, which is it's a perplexing verse. So
Yeah.
the
I have
word
a question.
yeah.
Why is it in quotes?
Which version are you using?
NIV. Gods among the gods is in quotes, which I thought was almost a sarcastic type of meaning. I wasn't sure. That's how I took it.
I don't have
Mine is in
mine.
quotes too, but it doesn't say that in the King James version, Don.
Oh,
Not sure why it says it like that.
okay. Well, they describe it. He describes the gods in the following verses, and it's not complimentary. So I don't know who they are, but he says they know nothing. So are they really, is he really saying they're gods, or is he saying, right? Almost like, yeah, I don't know. No.
Well, let's look at the way it's used. I'm going to say, in looking it up, it's used over 2,600 times, and it
Wow.
seems to come down to about 6 different meanings for it. One, of course, would be the Most High. And that's obviously the first instance in this sentence. The second instance in the sentence seems to be those that are in the heavenly congregation or council or assembly that are mentioned in the second part of this verse. Okay. Now let's look at 3, maybe 4 other instances, the other 4 ways that Elohim. Deb, you've heard of Elohim before, right?
Oh yeah, it's one of the names of God.
Right, and that's what I always thought. I didn't know it was used in these other ways too. But the third way would be in 1 Kings 11:33. So if we could turn there real quick, somebody read that.
What was it?
1 Kings 11:33.
I'll read it. I will do this because, wait, should I wait till everybody gets there?
No, you can start.
I will do this because they have forsaken me and worship Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Molech, the god of the Ammonites, and have not walked in obedience to me, nor done what is right in my eyes, but nor kept my decrees and laws as David, Solomon's father, did.
All of the instances of God
Okay.
or goddess is Elohim. So
Okay.
another definition would be foreign, gods of foreign nations.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so next, Deuteronomy 32:17.
I have to use my thing. I can't look up the verses that fast with my Bible.
Yeah.
Do you
What
have
was it?
It's
Deuteronomy what, Dar?
32:17.
Oh boy, I had that wrong. I got
me too.
732. 32:17.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, they sacrificed unto devils, not to God. To God they knew not. To new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not.
So in this instance, gods, the metaphor or the comparison is gods they knew not. The word is Elohim, that it's being compared to demons. So demons are also part of the Elohim.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, in your head.
1 Samuel 28:13. Now, this, just to recap as you guys are turning, 1 Samuel 28:13 is the story of how Saul, after Samuel dies, Saul goes to the witch of Endor and asks her to conjure up or bring up the spirit of Samuel, who had since died.
All right. 1 Samuel 28:13. The king said to her, "Don't be afraid. What do you see?" The woman said, "I see a ghostly figure coming up out of the earth."
That's the word Elohim. I see a God coming up out of the earth. Now, that could be a demon, an angel. It could even be a spirit, a dead human person. I think there's some room for, question on whether that was truly Samuel or not, but he was dead in this instant.
Because King James says, "And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth." And that's Elohim.
I see a God coming up out of the earth. This is what I have. Yeah, that's Elohim.
Meg, do you remember teaching in church that talked about Elohim? Do you remember hearing that?
Meg? Or
no, I was thinking, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
yeah. I don't know. I forget a lot of stuff when I was younger. But I feel like the name sounds familiar, but I don't remember what it,
Now the last or the sixth one. So we have the Almighty, we have the Most High, we have these other beings that sit in the congregation or the assembly of God. We have demons, we have potential spirit of a human dead. We have the gods of foreign nations, and seemingly the last one would be in Psalms 8:5. And this one may be in a sense of interpretation, but Psalms 8:5.
I have it. You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor.
He's talking about man here, but man, or actually, he has made him, Jesus, a little lower than the angels or the Elohim. So the Elohim here is seemingly interpreted as angels. So one of the things we could say in the 6 definitions that have been brought or interpreted for Elohim, it seems to be spiritual beings. It's not even necessarily a rank of being, it's just somebody who's a spiritual being. So God would be the Most High Elohim. But it seems to include demons, angels, gods of foreign nations, and I can't remember what the other one was. And the people that stand in the council in Psalms 82, verse 1. Okay. Now let's get back to Psalms 82:1. And we could kind of consider the picture here. We can read. So in 82:1, tell me when you guys are there.
I'm there.
I'm there.
Okay, so in this passage, God stands in the congregation of I guess, gods or other spiritual beings. And he's in the congregation of the mighty, or in a divine assembly, or in a divine council. So a whole bunch of these spiritual beings are in some type of council here in this passage, and God seems to stand. And now, Deb, you had made mention God doesn't seem very happy if he's going to stand, right? Because you said you read the next few verses in context.
Actually, I was talking about something else, like verse 5, but I didn't even notice this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once you get the picture, there's a reason why it makes mention of him standing.
Is that what NIV translates as presides?
Yes.
Stands?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in King James. King James is stands.
Okay.
Now it could be, right, it could be he takes his place because he's the big boss. And he stands, and I, a lot of times when I see, the word stand in the Bible, sometimes if it's referring to God or Jesus in particular, he's pretty ticked. But he stands and he begins to judge among these spiritual beings that are part of the divine council. Again, could be demons, angels, spiritual heads of foreign nations, which would probably be spirits in some regard, demonic spirits, I would imagine. Could even be spirits of the human dead. But somebody want to read the 2 through 5 there?
You say spirits of the human dead?
Only in the sense that Elohim was also referring to whoever Samuel spirit.
Oh, right.
Up. So I'm not saying I'm not suggesting this is the great judgment, but 2 through 5, if somebody wants to read that.
All right, I'll read it. How long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. 5:2?
Yes.
The gods know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken.
So God stands and he rips into these spiritual beings on his divine councils, his Elohim, or his assembly or congregation, whatever that seems to me. Now he says there seems to be some, I kind of sum this up. It suggests there's been some type of mutiny in some regard on the divine council. They unjustly judged. They respect the wicked. They should have defended the poor and the fatherless. They should have done right to the afflicted and needy. They should have delivered the poor and needy out of the hands of the wicked. And those that judged. Now, I know one of your verses said something about the gods don't understand. I thought, or I wonder if it meant that those beings that they've taken advantage of, I would wonder if they were not referring to the natural, don't really understand what's going on, but God is ripping into some type of spiritual beings that he's tasked to do something and they haven't done it, or they've mutinied and have their own agenda in the midst of this process. Okay. Now, I say that because now you said, in whoever read the last passage, you said they know not, meaning the spiritual being or the people, the spiritual beings, right?
Yeah, the gods know nothing. They understand nothing.
Well, it's a comma. So it could be a reiteration of the first, or it could be talking about somebody else, like the people.
The people that
they're supposed to be protecting.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's how I took it. and they don't even get what's going on. These spiritual beings who are standing in the presence of God should know better.
Should be shaking in their boots.
Right. And they're not. So that's how I took it. They don't judge. And these poor people that are sort of being swept along or being taken advantage of. So somebody read 6 through 8.
I said, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. Rise up, O God, judge the earth, for all the nations are your inheritance.
In 6, he says, ye are gods and son of the Most High. Again, you are Elohim. Now, he doesn't refer to people as Elohim. He refers to other spiritual beings that he refers to, at least in how the Elohim's interpreted in the Bible. Now, in verse 7, God says, ye shall die like men.
Mm-hmm.
The implication is that these aren't humans that are being compared to men, but there are some other type of spiritual beings that will die like the humans do, the men do. Okay, so in 8, we have, and I think in 8, it's an independent voice. Maybe it's Jesus. I'm not really sure, but it's not God's. I mean, I don't think it's God, but I think it's arise, O God, from some independent voice, maybe Asaph.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Who's saying, God, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. Now, when does God inherit the nations?
Well, inherit, it says.
Yes.
Mine says, for all the nations are your inheritance. Like that is like it's a statement of a fact.
Right.
That is a statement and a fact. I thought that King James was a weird interpretation. For thou shalt inherit all nations.
I think it's both. I think they do belong to him, but he allows these spiritual beings influence, but that won't continue forever. And I'm not suggesting this is day 7. I don't have any way of saying, but I wonder, I think when Jesus comes the second time, all power, authority, and everything then, even though he already got it, seems to happen then, although he technically does have it now. We just don't see it, right? I mean, I think that's fair.
Right.
So what nation might we say does God own right now? All of them, right? But what
every nation? Yeah.
What ones does he seem to act on behalf of? In the Old Testament, it was
the Israelites.
In the New Testament, it would probably be the spiritualists.
His people, yeah.
Okay. Let's turn to Psalms 89, 5 through 7. It's another mention of this council or assembly in these verses, which again, not something I'd ever heard before. And I heard somebody talk on it and I was like, whoa, I never even heard of this. This is really interesting. Somebody want to read those?
And the heavens shall praise thy wonders, O Lord, thy faithfulness, also in the congregation of the saints. How far am I going?
Through 7.
For who in the heaven can be compared unto the Lord? Who among the sons of the mighty can be likened unto the Lord? God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be had in reverence of all them that are about him.
Okay, in one verse, it makes mention of the assembly of the holy ones. In verse 6, it says, who in the, I know yours says heavens, mine says skies. Who in the skies can be compared to the Lord? You know, and the next one says, who among the sons of the mighty is like unto them, Lord. And then mine in verse 7 is interpreted, great, or God is terrible in the council of the holy ones.
What?
That's what mine says in verse 7. God is very terrible in the council of the holy ones, referring back to what we read in Psalms 82, this holy one with these spiritual beings that are around him. And I know some of the language you could say, oh, yeah, that applies to, us. But in verse 6, it does say who in the skies or in the heavens is compared to the Lord. So some of the wording, I believe he's referring again to this group of divine beings that God uses in some way in his counsel, however that works. So what we're going to do, because again, this is interesting. Let's look at one instance of this divine counsel in action that's provided for us. It's in 1 Kings 22. And we'll read most of the chapter. But in 1 Kings 22, I'll set the scene. This is a scene between, well, matter of fact, I have a map here I want to share here before we get started. Here it is. Okay, you guys see that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are the words, any of these words clear at all?
Can you zoom in?
Yeah.
Just made it bigger.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Now I can.
Okay. In this passage, we're going to read the nation of Israel, God's people, had been divided because of wickedness. So if you see on the map here, he divided his people in half. We have Israel up top. We have the nation of Judah down below. Okay. What we are going to see in this passage is the king of Judah down below is going to pay a visit to the king of Israel up above. The king above in Israel is Ahab, wicked King Ahab. The king down below is Jehoshaphat, who's the good king of Judah at this time. Now, if you can see Israel here at the top, they had been in a somewhat of a prolonged war with this group of people, this nation in the top right corner here called Syria, or it's also Aram, but it's the Syrians.
Yeah.
And they had some element of peace between them at this point, with one exception. They had like 3 years of peace. This little town right here, I don't know if you could see it, it's called Ramoth Gilead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's in Israel. This little town, which is fairly close to Syria right here, this little tiny town right here, right on the edge, was still occupied by the Syrians up top, despite there being a period of peace between them. So what we're going to see in this story we're about ready to read is, let me just turn back to my notes here. We're going to find that Ahab calls Jehoshaphat, so the king of Israel calls the king of Judah to Samaria, which is where the capital is in Israel. And he wants to discuss whether he'll help reclaim this town over here, Ramoth Gilead. Okay, that's kind of the long and short of what we're about ready to start. Okay, so I'm gonna unshare this.
Okay.
So you're saying that Judah's king went to Israel's king, and this Ramoth Gilead is in Israel, and said, hey, let's get together and get this town back.
Actually, the other way around.
Is Jehoshaphat Judah's king?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he called the wicked king called the good king
Okay.
to Israel.
Gotcha.
and said, hey, let's get together and do this.
Right.
Okay.
Will you support me?
Okay.
Okay. We got like 6 minutes, so we can read the first 5 verses here.
Matt, yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry, Matt, I had to get Maddie situated. All right, so 1 Kings 22. For 3 years, there was no war between Aram and Israel. But in the 3rd year, Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, went down to see the king of Israel. The king of Israel had said to his officials, don't you know that Ramoth Gilead belongs to us, and yet we are doing nothing to retake it from the king of Aram? So he asked Jehoshaphat, will you go with me to fight against Ramoth Gilead? Jehoshaphat replied to the king of Israel, I am as you are, my people as your people, my horse as your horses. But Jehoshaphat also said to the king of Israel, first seek the counsel of the Lord.
Okay. Jehoshaphat basically says, hey, can we go pray about this?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. Aram, of course, is Syria. And I think that's all. So somebody read 6 through 9.
I'll read
Donna.
it. Okay. So the king of Israel brought together the prophets, about 400 men, and asked them, shall I go to war against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I refrain? Go, they answered, for the Lord will give it into the king's hands. But Jehoshaphat asked, is there no longer a prophet of the Lord here whom we can inquire of? The king of Israel answered Jehoshaphat, there is still one prophet through whom we can inquire of the Lord, but I hate him because he never prophesies anything good about me. Always bad.
I love that.
No. He is Micaiah,
Always bad.
son of Imlah. The king should not say such a thing, Jehoshaphat replied. 9:2 also?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh
So
my gosh.
So the king of Israel called one of his officials and said, bring Micaiah, son of Imlah, at once.
Okay. Ahab's prophets, did they answer him? Did they?
Yeah.
Okay. They said
They answered him. They told him exactly what he wanted to hear.
Okay. Now, Jehoshaphat, by the sounds of it, doesn't trust Ahab's prophets and asks Ahab if there's not another prophet of God available. So he makes mention of Micaiah, but that he hates him since he only says negative things or bad things to him. So they bring Micaiah on the scene, and that's what we're about to read now. So 10 through 14.
You want to read?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dressed in their royal robes, the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, were sitting on their thrones at the threshing floor by the entrance of the gate of Samaria, with all the prophets prophesying before them. Now Zedekiah, son of Kenana, had made iron horns, and he declared, this is what the Lord says. With these you will gore the Arameans until they are destroyed.
Lord.
The other prophets were prophesying the same thing. Attack Ramoth Gilead and be victorious, they said, for the Lord will give it into the king's hand. The messenger who had gone to summon Micaiah said to him, look, the other prophets without exception are predicting success for the king. Let your word agree with theirs and speak favorably. But Micaiah said, here he goes, as surely as the Lord lives, I can tell him only what the Lord tells me.
So both kings sitting there as the false prophets of Ahab are prophesying a successful adventure to Ramoth Gilead.
Yeah.
One even makes what's called a horn of iron, suggesting that God will thrust the Syrians until they are consumed. Micaiah comes in. One of Ahab's prophets tells him to say good things like they're saying. And then Micaiah tells him that he will say what God tells him to say. And then we're going to pick up in 15 through 17, but I'm going to have to cut off and then we'll come right back.
Okay.
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 All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.